wanted to be an engineer. I wanted to be rich. Educators don't make money. I grew up poor. Why I want to be back poor again?
Yeah.
And that journey of like going to the job, the fancy engineering job, and then you're like, this is something. There's more. There's more to me. There's more to what I'm supposed to be doing on this planet. And I think when you can find it, when you hear it call you, it sometimes gets scary, right? It gets scary. It's like, is this all? Is this all? And then you start finding that thing that's calling you,
Yeah.
and people see it. People saw it in you. They're like, hey, wait, you should be doing more, right? There's
Yeah.
more. There's more in you. There's more to you, right?
There's definitely more to that. And I was able to tie all that into the first magazine that I dropped, which is called Find Your Galaxy. And that
Mm,
really connected the dots of like, how do you find yourself in this journey of life? And what are the tokens that you got and keys that you got to give to people? Because I
mm,
believe we are all starts. And if we put together, we can shine even lighter,
yeah.
and people got to create that mentality and that momentum.
Man, this is actually, I usually don't ask a bunch of questions in the first part before we get to the math. But one other thing that's resonating is, growing up in Oakland yourself, and I grew up in a different, I grew up in a different time zone, but nonetheless, this idea that when you work with a young person and you see there's so much going on, like in their eyes, you can see there's so much happening. And have you ever had a young person get shocked that you think you can see more of them than they see of themselves?
Oh, all the time. I was doing an interview, I want to say like 6 months ago, right before COVID, for MIT for their like equity program for teachers and stuff. And one of the things that I said is that I'm too relatable to the kids at times. As soon as I see them, I know what is wrong. And that sounds crazy, right? But there's this connection that is sometimes you cannot explain. And kids see that and they connect with me like fast, right? To the point where I'm like, I know what I need to do and I know how I need to elevate you, but I'm gonna show you the journey to get there because that's why I'm here. I'm not here to fix you. I'm
Yeah.
just here to be part of your journey, and that's what I'm here for.
Yeah. And I think imagine other teachers who don't have that skill are sometimes confused.
Hmm.
They're
Yeah,
they're, they're confused, they're insulted. They're like, this is not lit, this is not in pedagogy. And you're like, we don't need pedagogy for the heart.
we don't need
We we need connection, right?
that. Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's a big one right there. Like people ask me frequently, like, how can you put that on paper? And I say it has to align with your values and who you are as a person in order to connect that. And your struggle too, like all my life, I want to say majority of my life I've been on survival mode. And when you survive and you do all the code switching, you learn a different world.
That's right. Oh man, I got goosebumps, brother. I'm telling you. Welcome to the Taking Off the Mask podcast. My name is Ashanti Branch, and I'm glad you've joined us. Today's episode, you're going to get to meet Christian Martinez, also known as Noxhe Galactica. He's a podcaster, he's an educator, he's an Oaklander, he's a dancer, he's a creative. This conversation was meaningful and powerful in so many ways. Not only a fellow Oaklander, but a person working in education to help educate minds of our young people. The conversation was so powerful that the electricity in my house, the power went out 2 times. I don't know if we're going to be able to catch those elements in there, but 2 times the power went out on my end. I was just so excited to be on that call with him. And we talk about our masks. We talk about how our masks, and when we get real with them, how it helps us connect to students in ways that some other educators can't. That some other educators could if they were willing to get more real with the students. I think those are part of one of what I identified as one of his superpowers is to be able to connect with students on a real, authentic level, heart to heart, looking them in the eyes. As much as we don't get to hang out with people too much anymore, but we do get a place to connect, even when we can just say, hey, I see you, man. I see you. So today's conversation is really exciting for me. I'm really thankful that you've been here. If you want to create a mask, you can do that at www.100kmasks.com. Again, if you want to create your own mask anonymously, 100kmasks.com. So please go make a mask, share it with your community, your friends, your family. And if you want to do a face-to-face mask off with someone, please let us know. We would love to invite you on one of our face-to-face episodes, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Welcome to Taking Off the Mask. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey, welcome folks to Taking Off the Mask podcast. We're so excited to have Christian Martinez with us today. And Christian, thank you for being on the show with us.
No, I appreciate it, Ashanti. It's been overdue. I'm super excited to be here.
Oh man. Well, how about for the audience? Will you just introduce yourself? Like, what are some of the things you're working on? Um, what connects you to this space, and just so that they get to know you. And always want the guests to be able to tell who they are.
For sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Christian Martinez. I'm a proud resident of Deep East Oakland. I live on 98. I'm also an educator for about a decade now. And I'm also just an artist overall. I started my podcast about 2 years ago. It's called Noxhe Galactica, where we bring people from the community to do project-based learning and kind of just share their stories through this magazine. We just dropped our second magazine, which is called What is Love, and kind of just defining the definition of love for everybody, because we all have different lenses when it comes to love, right? And I also have a brand which is called Swim Good, inspired by my favorite artist, Frank Ocean. And it's really aimed to really talk about the mental health around men, right? And kind of just inspiring people, no matter where you at in this ocean called life, you're gonna be okay if you just swim good. And that's kind of like the mojo of my life, and those are two of my babies. But yeah, I work at Latitude High School. Shout out to Latitude. I'm one of the co-founders there, and I hold the culture and kind of the dean role there. And I'm always kind of looking to connect mental health to that ambiance there.
Oh, I love the way you just said the how do we swim in this ocean of life, right? Like swim good, right? And I think for a lot of communities who are afraid of water, it's like, well, you've been swimming already, you
All
know. And so I really love your background. I mean, I was like admiring your background. I was like, man, I thought my plants were fancy. I need to get me some background. So is there anything on your background that you be interested? Maybe pick one of them that you want to talk about. Yeah.
I would love to talk about one of them, and I think the most important to me is let me see, is right here. The first one, right? I was born in Uruapan, Michoacan, Mexico. I came here when I was 10, and those are the pyramids, the Purépecha pyramids. A lot of people, when you think about Mexico, you think about the Aztec Empire. But there was another empire called the Purépecha Empire, which was never conquered by the Aztecs, and that is where my family is from. And I take a lot of pride on that, because we have that Purépecha blood in us, and it's resistencia, which is one of my back my back of the mass words that I wrote down. And yeah, it's crucial to me, because I came to the States at the age of 10. I didn't know the language, and navigating this space and being in the U.S. now for over 20 some years is been a journey. And in this moment, I just want to give a shout out to Ashanti, because you were a great inspiration to me. I saw you at Fremont High. I'm a proud Tiger. Graduated in '07, and I saw you come into to Fremont one day in one of my classes, ninth grade, and I just felt your energy back then. I didn't know what it was, but I said I want to be like you one day, and I'm happy to be in front of you right now.
Oh man, oh you jumping in, you jumping in. Oh, that's so. Thank you for that, brother. Thank you, and I'm glad that connection with the Tigers and Fremont, and thank you for sharing that the Puepacha. I got some homework to do, so I'm gonna do some learning about that. Beautiful, brother. Thank you for bringing part of you who you are, and I think you already went to the back of the mass. We didn't even start the front, but you jumped into the back. So I think that's a good sign for maybe where we're gonna be heading in this conversation. And thank you for the work that you're doing, to giving back to the youth. Let me ask you this quickly, just before we jump into the mass. Did you always plan to be a teacher? Because did that? I,
Yes, that is a beautiful question, man. Not a lot of people ask me that question, because I feel like I just come in hard with the game and the tokens of power, right? Like I'm just dropping game. But the way I ended up working in education was honestly out of survival mode. I was undocumented until the age of 21. And right after I got my work permit, I applied to a first job. My first job was taking attendance at one of the schools here locally. But before that, I was bussing restaurants, and I was a dishwasher. But I always knew that I had this knowledge that came from, my ancestors. And I was like, I'm going to do something with this one day. And I became documented. eventually I was able to just vocalize the needs of Black and brown youth in the community and the schools, and they're not getting served. And I was just like vocalizing all this stuff to the point where the main person, the CEO of this organization, was like, "Who is this guy?" Right? Where did you go to school? And I say, I just read books. I don't do any university. Like, I'm just trying to get my game up. And that's how I came up. I started just reading a lot. I inspired just to like find different ways to elevate. There's not only one way. There's different routes.
That's right. Oh, there's so much, and thank you for that. Thank you for finding the journey to the heart. Right, like I wanted to be an engineer. I wanted to be rich. You know, educators don't make money. I grew up poor. Why I want to be back poor again? You know,
Yeah.
and that journey of like going to the job, the fancy engineering job, and then you're like, this is something. There's something. There's more. There's more to me. There's more to what I'm supposed to be doing on this planet. And I think when you can find it, when you hear it call you, it sometimes gets scary, right? It gets scary. It's like, is this all? Is this all? And then you start finding that thing that's calling you,
Yeah.
and people see it. People saw it in you. They're like, hey, wait, you should be doing more, right? There's
Yeah.
more. There's more in you. There's more to you, right?
There's definitely more to that. And I was able to tie all that into the first magazine that I dropped, which is called Find Your Galaxy. And that
Mm,
really connected the dots of like, how do you find yourself in this journey of life? And what are the tokens that you got and keys that you got to give to people? Because I
mm,
believe we are all starts. And if we put together, we can shine even lighter,
yeah.
and people got to create that mentality and that momentum.
Man, this is actually, I usually don't ask a bunch of questions in the first part before we get to the math. But one other thing that's resonating is, growing up in Oakland yourself, and I grew up in a different, I grew up in a different time zone, but nonetheless, this idea that when you work with a young person and you see there's so much going on, like in their eyes, you can see there's so much happening. And have you ever had a young person get shocked that you think you can see more of them than they see of themselves?
Oh, all the time. I was doing an interview, I want to say like 6 months ago, right before COVID, for MIT for their like equity program for teachers and stuff. And one of the things that I said is that I'm too relatable to the kids at times. As soon as I see them, I know what is wrong. And that sounds crazy, right? But there's this connection that is sometimes you cannot explain. And kids see that and they connect with me like fast, right? To the point where I'm like, I know what I need to do and I know how I need to elevate you, but I'm gonna show you the journey to get there because that's why I'm here. I'm not here to fix you. I'm
Yeah.
just here to be part of your journey, and that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, and I think imagine other teachers who don't have that skill are sometimes confused.
Hmm.
They're
Yeah,
they're they're confused, they're insulted, they're like, "This is not lit this is not in pedagogy," and you're like, "We don't need pedagogy for the heart.
we don't
We
need
we need connection," right?
that. Yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, that's a big one right there. Like people ask me frequently, like, how can you put that on paper? And I say it has to align with your values and who you are as a person in order to connect that. And your
yeah,
struggle too, like all my life, I want to say a majority of my life I've been on survival mode. And when you survive and you do all the code switching, you learn a different world.
that's right. Oh, man, I got goosebumps, brother, I'm telling you, this is so I think you're our first teacher on our first educator on the podcast, so, I mean, thank you for being an educator. So, there's gonna be some common language, folks out there. If we use any acronyms, you're gonna have to, like, just send me an email and I have to try and translate it 'cause I try not to use too many, but, we can make it in some teacher talk that's gonna
Yeah.
I'm super fired up. Man, this is and I think that thinking about youth and thinking about young people, I think is maybe after we talk about our mask, we can help to maybe think of a story because I imagine you have plenty of stories of young people who came in the office and you ask them one question and you're like, yeah, that's not really what's up.
Mm-mm. Oh
There's
yeah.
more going on, right? Or they just hang around after school and they're just like, hey, you need waiting for someone? No, I'm just here. And then they want to talk, but they're afraid that how that they think they can trust you, but they still in that their own stuff, right? Their own
Yeah.
fear of like, can I tell him what I'm going through? Is it gonna ever change our relationship, our connection? I
Hmm.
imagine you have plenty of stories of young people who have let you have a breakthrough with them.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's a beautiful moment, I think, as even as an educator, as a person, like take education to the side, like as a human being, like when you connect with another person,
yeah,
it's elevation all around.
absolutely. Oh man, that's phenomenal. Well, man, I'm excited to be in this mask work with you. Thank you for. Were you able to make your mask?
Yes, I was. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah.
I How was that experience? How was it thinking of what you were gonna write? What things may have come up before you, when you was like, I'm not writing that word, or what was that process like for deciding? Let me explain to folks what the mask is. So the mask is our metaphor for what gets in the way of our connection with other people. And so what we ask people to do is to draw a picture. It's one picture, 6 words. Hashtag one picture, 6 words. The picture is a mask or something an image that you want to draw. And then the second is 3 words on the front of the mask of things we let people see. And then what are 3 words for the back of the mask of things about ourselves that we normally don't let people see? And actually, now that I think about it, for the last people I've interviewed, I haven't even had them show their picture. I just thought about that. So
Mm,
today we're gonna actually do both. You and I are gonna do both. Like, I don't even think I said anybody share your picture, because the picture is a part of it, right? And the picture is not a judgment of art, but it's a picture of like, this is from my heart to this paper, and that's all that matters, you know.
beautiful.
And
Yeah.
so, do you want to go first, or
Yeah,
how?
I can go ahead and show it first. I feel
All
like,
right,
yeah,
all right,
if
all
I
right.
can jump right in there.
Okay.
Uh, so this is my. Let me see if it shows. Yeah, right. It's showing. Maybe not. Maybe yeah.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So that's my mask. The front is swag, creative, and charismatic, and
Okay.
then the back is fear, shy, and resistencia.
Okay.
Those are my words right there. Like I said, I'm from East Oakland. I'm 31. Um, that is my mask.
Oh man. Well, you see, this is beautiful, because what happens with these is like you went front and back all together, and so now we're going. There's a new way.
Okay.
This is beautiful. So this is the one I drew. The front says funny, serious, hardworking, and the back says fear of failure, trauma, and not enough. And I've made, and this is the picture. My picture is just
Mm,
I think this is what I was feeling this morning, when I was like running late and trying to get to my office, and then realized I couldn't make it to my office before a meeting, and then I was like feeling all
yeah.
that, and it just came out into this picture,
Mm,
and so what we've done in the past is we just kind of talk through them, talk
yeah.
about them, whichever ones feel like it's calling you the energy. I would love to,
Yeah.
since you brought up the resistencia, as one of, even before we got into the mask,
Yeah.
let's start on the back. We don't usually start on the back. That's
Okay.
usually the more deeper, vulnerable place, but I feel like it's calling you already.
Yeah, it's calling me, and I think that's a word that I've been really feeling for the past 6 months, right? Since all my life, but I feel like it's been really calling my name for the past 6 months, and I'm happy to start there. Resistencia for me just means it translates to resistance in English, right? But in Spanish, resistencia just means to be willing to go through a lot. And if I can dive into a little bit of my story, I
Yeah.
was shot at the age of 14 on International Boulevard in 55th. And then at the age of 16, my dad passed away due to muscle dystrophy right in front of me. And we were undocumented. And at the time, my mom was fearful to call 911 because she thought we would get deported. So we had to wait for hospice to come in and help out with the logistical stuff. And I was just 16, seeing my dad pass away, my hero. And after that, I fall into depression, and I dropped out of high school 3 times because I was just like, there's no point for me to do this. I wanted to become a dancer at a really young age. I inspired to like be a Jabberwocky. That's when it was happening. I was wanting to wear one of those masks, and I was like, I want to be that. But it stopped. So resistencia for me just means knowing that I have been through a lot, and I'm still standing. And that's why I go back to my ancestors and the peoples, and know that I come from a place where people just don't give up, and resistance is what we do. And being in Oakland has taught me so much. And East Oakland has taught me even more, because I'm able to connect people who are in the struggle, and they just continue to grind and to make things happen. And when you work in education and connect all those dots, you see so many discrepancies. And at the end of the day, you know that you're going to swim good because you're on top of the
Mhm.
game, because you already went through a lot and you have an answer for everything. It might sound cocky, but you do. And that's how we navigate in East Oakland in life.
Yeah. Did you find that? I mean, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you for going with there, and thank you for sharing your story, brother. I appreciate you sharing about that journey of like your own personal pain, and then the pain from your father, and then how to deal with that. How do you talk about it? How do
Mm.
who can you talk about it with?
Yeah.
And I wonder in your family or in your community that you spent time with, did you have permission to feel what you were feeling? Did you have space to? I just got shot. My father's dying. Or did you have to?
And
Yeah,
that's a great question. No one has asked that question, and I've been eager for someone to ask that question. No, I never had the chance to really experience pain and to share that, and just to share it with someone that is like a soundboard to me. Maybe no feedback, just heard me out. I didn't know about therapy until I was like 22, and even that, I feel like, oh, it's a taboo. Like, I come from a Latino family, which is very like, you're crazy, that's local if you go see a therapist.
yeah,
But just unwinding that, and I really want to give a shout out to people who really pushed me to do that. Like, follow therapy, go make this happen. It's okay. During that time, I was really like lost and not just being toxic, but also masculine toxicity, right? Like all
yeah.
those layers that come with that. But yeah, I didn't have the chance to just convey that information. I just kept it to myself, and I became really angry, like really angry.
Yeah. Eh, Man, so I'm asking you questions, but let me talk about mine.
Yeah, of
I
course.
think I appreciate that. Today when I was in this morning when I wrote not enough, this is actually probably the first, maybe the second or third time I've made hundreds of masks in this journey of making masks for the last several years. But I've only written not enough, maybe a handful of times. And today, I think the what was coming up for me is all this real stuff, right? Like I was supposed to be at my office by this certain time. I wasn't going to make it, and I'm just like, how am I going to achieve everything I want to achieve, right? Like if I can't, like I was up till like 3. I don't know why I was up. I have stuff to do today. Why am I up till 3? Well, I got stuff trying to finish from yesterday's list, and then I go to bed. I'm already borrowed hours on the day, and then I wake up late. I'm like, what's wrong with you waking up late? Right? It's like a self sabotage, and then upset with myself because I didn't like. And then it's a sign. It's like okay, and then it perpetuates it. It perpetuates
Mhm,
what you either one already believe about yourself or the story you tell yourself. The story I
mhm,
tell myself. The story that I tell myself when I'm like, why was I up till 3? Well, I was trying to finish up this other thing. And then why did you wake up later? Well, because you were up till 3. And so then this idea is like, oh, well, if you believe already in some ways that this is not going to really work, you're gonna like if you have these behind the mask beliefs. And I tell people I don't talk about this from a theory. I don't talk
mhm,
about these masks from a book I read. Every day I'm trying to like shed them as much as possible so that I can be more fully myself,
mhm,
even through the fear of posting a um, posting something on Instagram or whatever, and like thinking it's a positive message, and then it doesn't do anything, and then you're like, oh God, right? You begin to
Yes.
question. I begin to question myself, like, why did I even do it, right? And I've
Mm,
had to break myself out of those patterns, and so not enough really lands into that. And I think growing up here in Oakland, I was taught or I was raised in this community where it's like, don't be bragging. You don't get to
mhm,
talk about yourself. When you said earlier, not to brag, I'm like, I'm so glad you are because I was taught you don't get to brag. You don't get to speak highly of yourself, right?
mhm,
Like I think I get irritated when people are always really good at speaking good about themselves because I was taught that, or in some ways that you don't get to do that. And
mhm,
so, like this idea of me feeling I'm not enough is because I can never tell when I even thought I was enough
mm.
because that the feeling of like, oh, who you think you better than us? Like who
Yes,
you
yes,
think you think you smart because you went to college? You think you like?
yeah,
No, I don't think any of that. I just glad that I and imagine like your school probably when you get to have seniors, you probably have on the wall like students that get accepted to college. If they had put my face on a wall at
mhm,
Fremont High that I was on my way to college, do you know I would have ripped it down?
yeah,
I would have ripped it down. I would have defaced some school property to get my
mhm,
face off of a wall because how dare you? Like I got an image to, you know what I'm saying? Like I mean, I
yeah,
wasn't like a cool kid. I was a smart kid, but I had an image that I kept at least manicured enough that I'm not gonna be the nerd, right?
yeah,
Even though deep down
yeah,
I think I wanted to be, right? I wanted to compete with the sisters who were always getting the
mhm,
top scores, right?
mhm,
And so that not enough plays into so many things in my life today that I still try and erase.
yeah. That's beautiful that you can name it and call it out. And a lot of times I feel the same way. Like there's times where I feel like I'm not enough, just just with even within myself, and I have to remind that at times people are going to make you feel that way because that's their own energy, that they carry, and you got to continue to just protect your space and your energy and your heart and where you stand,
Yeah.
because then those thoughts it starts to creep in your mind, and it make like connections that are not even there. So the
Yeah.
not enough piece definitely comes around a lot.
So what in terms of like the front, so
Yep.
what is a quality on the front that you gladly let the world see? What is one of the front?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the one in the front, I feel like my swag, like my swag is definitely something that if you see me out in the street, and if you don't know me, like you will know me, right? Because you'd be like, who's that guy? Like, one, I love fashion. Two, I really put a lot of emphasis on like making sure that my language and the way that my etiquette comes across is like very nice and beautiful and who I am, and super transparent, and that's what I thrive on, right? And then when people start asking me like, where are you from, and try to make the connections to me and my heritage to Michoacan, and then I tell them the story that not a lot of people know, and this is a story where people just go crazy, right? I was in Japan for a while, in Tokyo, and I brought my magazine over there because I just connected with Japan, and just bringing the stories from people from Oakland, from Michoacan, to people in Japan and Tokyo, and doing a pop-up shop. It's just insane. But it was like this interconnection where I was able to connect people, and people are just like, wow, that's a whole different level. And I was like, yeah, because that's what we are. We all can accomplish those things.
That's right. Oh, that's beautiful. That so man, you the traveler too. So I'm looking forward to learning more about your traveling. So
Yes,
thank you for sharing that, man.
for
And you said
sure.
you were there for a couple of years ago or for a
No,
couple of years?
no, I was there. I was there in 2017, and I went back in 2019, and that's when I had the pop-up show for the magazine.
That's great, man.
Yeah,
Is there a way that at the end you could tell us about how to get our hands on it, or
for sure.
okay, beautiful, because I would love to make sure that I get one of mine.
Yeah.
Um, front. I'm gonna put. I have three. I have the funny,
Yep.
serious, hard work. I'm gonna talk about hard working.
Hmm.
And I think that that comes into play in this idea that I think people can see that right on the outside. People can see that it shows. There's no doubt that Ashanti's working hard, right? And I always thought that if like I don't know, I never thought I was the smartest, but I thought that I would just out. I think there's this Will Smith quote that talks about, you may be better, you may be stronger, you may be whatever, but I will outwork you, right? Like there's this idea that, well, I can just work really hard, and if I'm not good at it right now, I can get better, and therefore getting better at it will allow me to do better, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting when I look from back to front, what the front are trying to do about what's behind the mask, right? So when we started on the back, which is I've never done before, like we started with this idea from me not enough, and my hard working is trying to like definitely trying to prove,
Mm,
demonstrate, show that no, I am enough, and
yes.
see how hard I work,
Yeah.
right? See how hard I've been working.
Mhm.
Um, but there's one thing about that is if it's not 100% all of the what was going on, it is only limited in how much it's effective, right? So
Mhm.
if I'm working hard, but then I'm not seeing the results that I really want,
Yeah.
then that almost feels like it's still not enough, right? All
Yeah.
the hard work that I've been doing for years, right? When you're putting your thing out there in the world, like you said, I'm gonna go to Japan and put this pop up. People are like, what are you doing? You're like, well, why not, right?
Yeah.
Why yes, why not? Why just let's try it, right? See what happens. And what's the worst thing that could happen? It's just
Yeah.
a trip, and I come back home with the same amount of, but I'm doing something different, right?
Yeah.
And I'm stretching. So that's the hardworking one.
Yeah, man, that is, yes, I can definitely see how one tries to hide the other, Like you trying to work hard tries to hide you not feeling enough. And just comparing minds, like I can see how the swag can kind of I can use it as a shield to hide the fears that I have, to hide the shyness that I sometimes feel in spaces where I don't feel like I belong. So I kind of defer to my frontal, Matt saying my swag is gonna just control the whole vibe here, and that's what I go with not letting the things in the back up.
Yeah, oh man. And I think it connects right down to when you talk about the Jabberwockies, right?
Yeah.
Like they came out on stage. I remember I don't know where I was at when I first saw them. I'm like, I mean, it was just like stealth, right? It was like Whoa. Well, this is before I was even doing this work with these
Mhm.
masks, right? But I would remember seeing them. I'm like, oh my goodness, they all have the same emotion. They all have the
Mhm.
same, right? You don't know what's happening behind there because it's
Mhm.
all like uniform, right? And
Yeah.
what a great metaphor for how we see in our community, right? Where everyone got to be tough and strong and not have no feelings and pretend like everything's good, even
Mhm.
when it's evidence to somebody on the outside that it's not going good. But if somebody doesn't want to talk about it, they're not
Yeah.
gonna let it go.
Yeah, I think this work is super needed, and when I saw, about I want to say about a year and a half ago that I started really following and seeing your mass development, 100 mass everywhere, it really resonated with me. Not just for my own experience, but also because I lost my best friend to suicide, and it was because of this, right? Like not knowing that he was wearing a mask, and maybe all these different layers of society that sometimes are hard to kind of just take off.
And thank you. Well, today I think today is World or National Suicide Prevention Day.
Yeah.
And our work with this campaign was I was at Fremont High. I was the
Hmm.
dean that year, 2012. I was
Hmm.
the dean. Um, this was like when they were trying to build the school back together,
Yep.
and I saw some young men that were just going through it. And
Mhm.
because I'd already been deeply connected to Ever Forward, where it has already started, but I was like, why are you fighting this? Why are you
Mhm.
fighting me? Like, I'm not your enemy.
Mhm.
Why are you yelling at me in the hallway? Why are you cussing at me? Like, I am not your enemy. I only want the best for you. And I think the same thing you talked about, and I'm sorry about your friend, but I saw it with young people every day walking through those halls, like just looking at the floor, dazed out, like lost, like you're like, hey, how you doing this morning? And then they're shocked that you speak to them.
Yeah.
Why are you speaking to me? I'm like, I don't know. You're human. I just saw you. I said hi. Like what? And then they get shook out of their fact that they were in a daze, and they're
Yeah.
like, okay, fine, hi, right? You're like, okay, well, we got somewhere.
Yeah.
And I wonder if not even a question, but maybe just what where do you think that come where do you think some of the roots of that
Mm.
are, of this idea that I have to keep your friend, like your best friend, like, and I've had students um who've been feeling those things, and
Yeah.
when you try and ask them, hey, how you doing, they're like, I'm good, everything's cool, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And you and you get to that place where you're like, are you sure? Is there, I mean, what does fine mean?
Yeah.
What does good mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the root of just feeling like you cannot name your emotions, and just speaking from a young, male of color, right? There's a lot of, again, toxic masculinity. Like shout out to Bell Hooks for hooking me up with all these books. Like I love it. But it's just ingrounded in you. Like I feel like it comes with your culture in a sense. Like people at a really young age start to develop like ways to mask things out, right? Because then you start getting called names. Even myself as a grown adult, the way I carry myself is very like positive energy, like making sure that I'm giving out love, because not giving love is this way of not receiving love, making sure we
Yeah.
give it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people start questioning my sexuality, right? Like, and I'm like, whoa, like that has nothing to do with that. Like the
Right.
way I navigate life is because this is what makes me feel great and makes me feel a good human being. But at a young age, it's super conflicting because now you have your mom, your dad who have different points of view, and then on top of that, you add the whole survival mode, right? Like you got to survive, you got to grind, and that adds a different complexity of like just making it in life.
Oh man. Well, thank you for speaking to that, because I experienced that often. I was raised by my mom only. My
Mhm.
dad died before I was born, so I deeply connect to men who have lost their fathers, and because I never had mine, I just deeply connect to that loss, that emptiness. But my mom taught me how to be really nice and kind and loving and caring and gentle. Right? I'm a big dude, right? You can't be that now. You can't. Why are you smiling so much? Why
Mhm.
you always smiling? Like I don't know why am I because I like to smile.
Yeah,
And then you begin to realize that it's not the same respect in the house as it is out there.
yeah,
So who you are as a genuine person like begins to get questioned out there, that something's wrong with you. Are you, man, why you smiling at me? I'm smiling at
mhm,
everybody. I don't even know the fact that I was not paying attention to smiling at you or anything like that. I think those questions and those things cause I know it with myself. Okay, so out here, out the side of the house, I gotta turn on this if I look at you, I'm just gonna look at you plain or not look at you at all. And if you look at somebody too plain, it's like, why are you staring at me? I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I couldn't smile at you. I can't look at you like. Let me
Yeah.
just try and not even make you in my periphery, right? And I think that happens so often with our young people,
Yep.
and yeah, man, I'm really thank you for sharing that about your
Yeah.
friend and what I hope, as a vice principal, um, I had a young man walk into my office and hand me a note that said that he wanted um to take his life,
Mhm.
and I was I imagine there was some checklist that I was supposed to have remembered. There was some
Yeah.
file I was supposed to look at. There was
Yeah.
some binder, some section of some binder somewhere. I didn't even know where to start.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I just remember I know how to care.
Yeah.
I know how to have empathy. And I just said, come here, sit down, sit down, sit down. I mean, my name was in the letter. I don't even know why even, but I know why today. I didn't know why that day.
Mhm.
I told this young man, I said, listen, I got your back. I said, today's going to be a tough day, but I got your back, and I had things to do. I wasn't even going to be at work that day, but I tell you, you imagine the stories you get to look back and say, why was I even there that day? I had other things to do. You
Mhm.
know why you were there. You know why that happened, even though it was painful and devastating in the moment.
Yeah.
Looking back, you're like, oh, this is how you put the pieces together,
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
always an alignment. I'm a big believer in the energy of the universe and knowing that you are put in a place to make a change, and it's not a coincidence. You were there for a reason, and yeah.
Man, I this has been fantastic. What I really want to do is, you
Yeah.
know, is there any other word that's calling you from yours that you want to talk about? Because I don't know if there's another word that's calling you right now.
Yeah, I think the word, I mean, I'm going back to like the back and hope that's okay.
Wherever.
I'm really comfortable talking about like just the pain because I feel like the more you talk about the pain that you have gone through, the more you heal.
Yeah.
So one of the ones that really resonates with me is fear.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because, again, just going back to my story, um, going living in '98 by Serenity Park, and at a really young age, I was undocumented, and I was working at a restaurant, and eventually, I was able to make it to the front desk, and that was like a big promotion for me. And I would have to wear a suit to be at the front desk and really look etiquette, and that's where I learned a lot of my code switching because we have a lot of guests from different parts of the world come in, and I have to like elevate my etiquette. So one of the fears was that I would take BART from 73rd Coliseum just with my regular street clothes because I didn't want people to see me with a suit because I would probably get jacked and they would probably think that I was carrying a lot of money because the suit was really nice. So I would carry the suit in my backpack. My jeans were baggy. I wore a hat, headphones. As soon as I entered the Jack London, like right under the bridge of the OPD department, like I would go and change. So whenever I push it to the area of the Jack London where the guests would be at, they would see me in a suit and I would look, to the level that they were expecting someone to be in. And that taught me a lot of fear, and also taught me how to code switch. Because just relating it to your point earlier about there's different scenarios that you got to play in, and kind of sometimes there's really negative the way you see it. But if you are able to convert that energy, once you pull up to a room,
Yeah.
just by looking at someone and seeing how they looking at you, you already know their intentions. You already know their angles because everybody has an angle on you, and you already pull up and you everything.
That's fantastic. That's beautiful. One of the things that made me think about when you told that story is like this idea of like what are people able to handle, right? Like I grew up in church. My mom, we went to church all the time. I mean, not just Sundays. I mean, Sundays, Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays.
Yeah,
Hey folks, we had a power outage here in my neighborhood.
it's good.
So we oh, my mic's not on. Okay, let me get this back. Let's see. This is the
I'm sorry, but the person you called has a voicemail box that has not been set up yet. Goodbye.
I think it's a beautiful it's gonna be a beautiful story of like metaphor for what's happening. I think we should show this part,
Yeah.
or at least part of this part, right? Where what do you do? What do you do when everything is going fine? Like something happened in our world, right? Our young people are like in school online, like the world just
Mhm.
stopped. Everything's like, oh, what's going on? And to to feel like you're in the dark. I mean, when it first happened, I think growing up when our lights would get turned off, usually it wouldn't happen while we were in the light, right? It was like you
Hmm.
come home from school and you're like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Why are there no lights, right? And then you realize, okay, there was a lot of stuff led up to this no light situation, you know?
And,
Um,
and honestly, this is a great topic to talk about how you navigate the unexpected, right? And in life, I think he froze again. Is he? You there?
yeah, I'm here. I'm gonna move this back to
It
my
looks like he's just being a really deep listener right now.
me. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Let's see. Your internet stable is unconnected. I'm gonna go
It's
back to
good.
my,
It's
my
good.
my Wi-Fi. Let me get back to the Wi-Fi. You can't hear me. Going back to the come on, Wi-Fi.
Oh, there he's back.
Jeez, man. It's like it's like one thing after another. I, can you hear
You
me
know?
now? Well, I think you know what I told we interviewed a freehand prophet the other day, and I told him he's an artist. I said, look, if once it ends, it's supposed to end, right? So we trust that the energy of the conversation. But what I want to do is like I forgot now what we were saying at the end right then, but I definitely want to come just bring it back around to the day and where we're at right now. You know,
Yep.
I think with this being National Suicide Prevention Day, I think what happened with our lights. My power went out, and it was like, what do? You just kind of like roll with it, right? You just kind of keep moving.
Yeah.
And you were gonna say something, and then my power lost again. I was like,
Yeah, I have something to say about that. Oh,
oh, it's
he's back.
doing it
He's
again. What's
gone.
happening? What the fuck? Oh, I gotta hear this. I gotta hear this. Okay, I gotta hear this. It's doing it again. Like, what is going on with this house and the internet? I don't believe this.
Oh, he's back. He's back.
Man, it must be something powerful you got to say because
Powerful.
I'm telling you, I'm like, it doesn't want me to hear it. It's the life-changing moment. It's like,
This is it. I'm gonna drop it though. I'm gonna drop it before you froze again. So what I'm trying to say is that when things like this happen and we don't know the unexpected, most people uh, behave and navigate life trying to control every little part of it, right? But once you grow up in survival mode, you got to be ready for everything. So I feel that if people can really take that energy of survival mode and curate it in a way that they can navigate life in different ambience, this is a walk in the park without like misanalyzing that there's a lot of lives that have been lost. But you can definitely like capitalize on things like this, like making the best out of every situation.
yeah, I think that's connected to your swim good, right? Like, if you learn how to navigate in this situation where you have very little, then when the economy is falling apart, you're not like feeling terrorized because you're feeling like, wait, I've worked with less before. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yep.
I've worked with little before, and like, oh, okay, this is what happens. Like I remember this being in the struggle. So therefore these new waves are gonna come and maybe shake me up a little bit more, but I can swim through this too.
Yep. Yeah. When I was 17, I developed a theory of life. The first is three levels. The first one is survival mode. The second one is escalation mode, and the third one you enter to society, where you are able to articulate and navigate life like a lot of the white folks do it. But
Mhm.
the survival mode, and once you bounce back and forth down that pyramid, like there's no way no one can stop you. Like you good.
And you said you were 17. That was right after your father passed.
Right after my father passed away, I had like an epiphany where a lot of thoughts started coming into me, and like I'm a big fan of Tupac Shakur, so I just that resonates with me a lot.
Yeah. How did friends around you who knew you before, when I talk to people about taking off the mask,
Yeah.
someone in a workshop this morning said that could be scary. Like when you want to tell them about your real heart feelings, your real self, like it can be scary to like people who've known you to be this way. Now you're talking this really powerful talk, and they're like, dude, you're doing too much. You know what I'm saying? Like, how did friends respond to you? At least the ones who maybe, yeah, I would say in
Yeah.
general question. Yeah.
No, yeah, for sure. Growing up in when I went to school, I have acquaintance. I don't think I have friends, right? I had acquaintance. People knew me. They knew me that I was like the party person. They knew me like, oh, Christian is gonna dance. Christian is the hype man, right? but I only had one true friend who really knew my intentions and who really knew me deeply until this point. Like he's right here, he's waiting for me so we can go eat. And he knows like I know who you are. Like it's love. Like you spread love, you spread energy. People want to be around you, and you just got to lean into that. So I appreciate him for doing that. Um, and people, whenever people look at me, they think I'm really quiet. With the beer, they think I'm like really mad at times because the beer just brings a different vibe. But once I start talking, people are just instantly connect because I love boxing and I like to do the 1-2 punch. You know, like what I'm about to say is gonna land and you're gonna feel it, and that's what I go in.
Oh man, I think that's a perfect place to be. And I want to thank you for being on with us today. Thank you for taking off the mask. Thank you for sharing stories about your life and about your journey. And I'm glad to be, I think you're my, well, besides a teenager, you're my first Oakland man that I got to connect with on the show. So I'm really thankful for that. And I hope this is not the last time we connect. I think we've been trying to connect on the school wise, trying to like support your young people with that work, but whatever. I'm glad to be connected with you. I hope this is just a beginning. Um,
Yeah.
and is there anything like anything? How can people get in touch with you? How can they find your magazine? How can they follow you? What are the ways that people can get in touch with you?
For sure, yeah. So my magazine, you can follow me on Instagram, Noxhe Galactica, which is like right here, Noxhe Galactica, or Swim Good. Both of them are my babies, and then from there on, you can get plugged in to get the magazine. It was published via isu.com, which is a self-publishing website that you can find. And my podcast is also on iTunes and SoundCloud, and I also have a mixtape on iTunes and Spotify that talks about my journey coming to the States.
Man, we're gonna get the links from you, so we'll put it in the show notes so people can find it there too. We're gonna definitely share that with everybody. Man, thank you for your time today. I just want to say for all those out there, we did talk about some tough topics today. So if you or anyone you know is dealing with feeling thoughts of suicide, please know that there's help out there. We will put the number here for you to even hear it. I wish I had the number memorized, but I will make sure that it's available to you. But please reach out to us. You can go, and if you want to make a mask as a part of this movement, you can go to www.100kmasks.com, www.100kmasks.com, and make a mask. It's anonymous, and you get a place to like recognize that you're not alone. When you see the thousands of other masks that we've collected, you'll recognize that you're not alone. So, Christian, on behalf of Ever Forward and Siempre Adelante, our organization, I want to say muchas gracias. Thank you so much. And it's been a pleasure to be in this conversation with you. And I'm looking forward to more opportunities for us to connect in the future.
Yeah, I appreciate it likewise, and let's continue to elevate in community.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Take care, brother.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Cheers.